swimming pool, so you're just going to really lean in on the shoulder till you get it more pointed again. And then I've got left clay, which I'm especially thankful for since it's harder. And I can, in just a couple of moves, have another section ready to go up here. So lids are a great reason. There's a number of different lids you can do. The most basic is what I call a saucer lid, because compressing, you're basically throwing a saucer in fact, what I like to do is, if I'm going to throw a lidded piece, I will start, let's say I know my jar is going to be maybe a 2-pound jar. So I will weigh out 2.5 to 2 3/4, and I will work on getting it centered enough to throw the lid off the top, because ideally you want to throw your lid and your bottom out of the same clay, out of the exact same lump of clay, so that it'll have the same moisture content. It will shrink the same, so when you measure your lid and then use that measurement to measure your galley for where your lid's going to sit, you don't have to worry about if you threw your base and then you went and got a piece of clay out of your bag that might be a little wetter or a little drier than the clay you just threw. Doesn't matter how accurate you were when you measured it. As they dry, they're not going to fit. So this being the saucer, basically what I would do from here is I would trim down to about there, and then I would trim this here. So I have 2 lines there. The reason being, what I'm going to do is I'm going to make my first cut here, again leaving plenty, not as much as I thought, but plenty of thickness, and then I'm going to do this below it so that I can pick it up from that bottom one and not worry about warping. So you can also do this. So let's say you've decided you're going to work with porcelain and you want to make some really thin, sweet porcelain tea bowls that you are going to trim a foot on. Either what you can do is one of 2 things. Either you can leave yourself a lot of clay on the bottom, wire that off, and then worry about trimming it, or you can trim it in so you just have the clay you're going to trim, and then do what I just did and basically leave this. You're going to wire it where you normally would, and then you're going to make this donut, wire it under there, so that when you lift it off, you don't have to warp it and then worry about reshaping it and is it going to stay round.
So then how do you get that off of there?
Well, later, as it dries, you'll just wire it again.
Okay.
And once this is firmer, then when you wire it again, you'll just lift it off.
Okay.
Okay. Did you have a question? Oh, excellent.
Read your mind.
So then, thank you. I knew I had it here. So then later, when I do take this off, I would invert it into the piece that it hopefully fits in. Take a little strip of plastic, lay it over the opening, put this in so that I can trim this. And either, if I left a whole hunk of clay, I could actually even trim the knob, or I could trim it round and then score it, add a little piece, and throw a handle on it. So there's that. There's also what one of my old teachers used to call the fancy teapot lid. If anyone has any questions about any of this as we go, just yell them out. So for this one, when I open, I'm going way down. And then, I'm going to keep in mind where this is, because that's part of my lid. Then I'm putting my finger on the inside just as a reference so my hands can stay connected, and my thumb on the outside is going to push down, leaving that little skirt of clay. Okay? And then I'm going to throw this ever so delicately. And there's a number of things you could do. You know, you could leave it open like that and let it be your knob like this. Most often what happens is it becomes a closed form. And once you have it closed off, and you've got that trapped air in there, And when you do close it, just make sure you keep kind of reinforcing that clay to go in on itself. So now I have this trapped air, so I could shape this. So I'm going to compress it down at the bottom so I've got a place to grab. Whoops, maybe not that much. And maybe I want to stretch it out a little bit longer. And then maybe I just want to add a little bit of there. And now maybe I want to push down just a little bit here. And I'm going to bring this out depending on, again, if I made this first, then I could be setting the opening of my teapot right here. I brought my... So this, I'm envisioning, will have kind of an inset flange that this will sit on. And what makes it the fancy teapot lid, if you go this far, so I'm going to trim this down here. And I'm going to do the same thing because I don't want to warp this coming off. You want to keep your teapot lids round. So I've got my trim line here, and then I'm going to do another one right down there, make my little donut again. And when you do this, always wire the top one first, because if you wire the bottom one and then try and wire the top one, the whole thing's going to move. And if you have any difficulty wiring flat, bring your wire around, cross it over, cross your streams, pinch the cross mark right there, and then just pull it straight towards your body. And really, the more you do it, the easier it'll get. If you're one of those people who feels like I must do it while it's moving, then practice. Be a cowgirl.
So, sorry, you said the bottom, like the donut part, is just to protect the lid while you're doing
It is to protect the lid as far as, so if I pick it up from here, I'm not putting any pressure down here, so I don't have to worry about
She's
warping
gonna cut
it.
the bottom off.
Gotcha.
Yep, but the
I
donut
mean,
will
she
come
already
off.
did cut it off, but she's not lifting it.
Exactly. And you can see, because I pushed down so far, when I open this, my closed form lid, my little knob, is hollow, and I don't have to worry about a breathing hole. I have this hole. So when, okay, I'm going to go ahead and peel this off. So now this could just sit in like this. Now if I wanted to, though, because I've got a little extra clay here, if I turn this over, I could trim this off and just make it a little bit more pronounced. And then when you do that, what you can do is you can add back a little lump of clay. And then in the lid of your teapot, you have a little, where the flanges, where this sits, you have just one little opening, kind of like you do when you have a honey pot. You got the thing for, and what happens is that's your key.